They say love makes you blind, but technology makes you stupid. I spent 3 months believing my girlfriend had disappeared from the internet, mourning our lost connection like she'd died. Then I swiped right on a dating app and saw her sister's face staring back at me. That's when I realized I hadn't been catfished. I'd been played by an entire family. Sometimes the cruelest scams aren't about money. They're about making you believe you matter to someone who sees you as nothing more than a monthly payment plan. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. My name is Graham, and I'm 58 years old. I've been living alone in Melbourne for the past 4 years, ever since my divorce was finalized. Sarah and I had been married for 23 years when she decided she needed to find herself with her yoga instructor. I got the house, she got half my retirement savings, and we both got our freedom. The problem was, I didn't know what to do with mine. I spent 32 years working as a telecom engineer, building networks, solving connection problems, understanding how data flows from one point to another. I thought I understood communication. I thought I understood how people connect. I was wrong about everything. You can understand the technical aspects of connection without understanding the human heart, and the human heart is where all the real problems start. After the divorce, I tried to rebuild my social life. I joined a hiking club, took cooking classes, even tried speed dating once. But Australian women my age seemed tired, jaded, focused on their careers or their grown children. They looked at me and saw another divorced guy with baggage, someone settling for companionship instead of passion. Maybe they were right. Maybe that's exactly what I was. 6 months ago, on a particularly lonely Saturday night, I downloaded a dating app. Not because I was desperate, well, maybe I was, but because I wanted to try something different. I'd heard about men my age finding happiness with younger women overseas. Not the mail-order bride stereotype, but genuine connections with women who appreciated maturity, stability, kindness. Women who weren't jaded by decades of disappointment. I spent hours crafting my profile. Former telecom engineer, financially stable, loves travel, and learning about new cultures. I posted photos from my recent trip to New Zealand, one of me hiking, another at a nice restaurant. I tried to look approachable but successful, mature but not old. The first few days were disappointing. A few matches with women who seemed more interested in immigration status than genuine connection. Then I found Celeste. She was 22, a private tour guide from Cebu in the Philippines. Her profile said she loved traveling, meeting new people, learning about different cultures. She had this smile that made me forget about my gray hair and my expanding waistline. But it wasn't just her beauty that caught my attention, it was her eyes. They looked intelligent, curious, genuine. "Hello, handsome Australian man," she wrote to me first. "I love your profile. You seem very kind and intelligent. I would love to know more about you. My name is Celeste, and I hope we can be friends." I should have been skeptical. A beautiful 22-year-old messaging a divorced 58-year-old. But something about her seemed different. Her message wasn't generic or overly flirtatious. She seemed genuinely interested in conversation, not just compliments or quick meetups. "Hello, Celeste," I replied. "Thank you for your kind message. I'd love to learn more about you as well. What's it like being a tour guide in the Philippines? It sounds like an exciting job." Her response came quickly, and it was thoughtful, detailed. She told me about her work, how she guided tourists around the beautiful islands of Cebu, showed them hidden waterfalls and pristine beaches. She described the joy she felt when visitors fell in love with her country, how proud she was to share Filipino culture with the world. "But it's not always easy," she wrote. "Tourism can be unpredictable, especially during typhoon season. Sometimes I have no work for weeks, and I worry about paying my rent, but I love meeting people from different countries. Everyone has such interesting stories." That honesty impressed me. She wasn't trying to create a perfect image of her life. She was sharing real struggles, real concerns. We started chatting for hours every day. She told me about her family, her parents who owned a small sari store, her younger brother who was studying engineering, her dream of traveling the world someday. I told her about my career, my divorce, my quiet life in Melbourne. "You sound so wise, Graham," she would say. "I feel like I learn something new every time we talk. You make me want to be a better person, to see the world through more mature eyes." Those words hit me harder than they should have. When was the last time someone told me I made them want to be better? When was the last time anyone looked forward to hearing from me? When was the last time someone valued my perspective instead of seeing it as old-fashioned or irrelevant? We moved to WhatsApp after the first week. She sent me photos of her daily life, the beaches she visited with tourists, the local food she ate, her small apartment with its view of the city. I sent her pictures of Melbourne, my morning coffee routine, the sunset from my balcony. It felt natural, comfortable, like we were already part of each other's daily lives. Then came the video calls. Celeste was even more beautiful on camera, dark hair always perfectly styled, bright eyes that lit up when she smiled, a laugh that was infectious. She would show me around her apartment, introduce me to her cat Ming, tell me about her day in detail. I started planning my mornings around our calls, staying up late to match her time zone. "I've never met anyone like you, Graham," she told me during one of our late-night video calls. "You're so different from Filipino men. They're immature, always playing games, never serious about the future. You're mature, stable, caring. You make me feel safe." That word safe, it meant everything to me. After years of walking on eggshells with Sarah, constantly worried about saying the wrong thing or making the wrong decision, the idea that I could make someone feel safe was intoxicating. We talked about everything. Her childhood growing up in a small barangay outside Cebu City, her dreams of becoming a business owner someday, her love of romantic movies and Korean dramas. I shared stories from my engineering career, my travels around Australia and New Zealand, my thoughts on life and relationships. "You're teaching me so much about the world," she said one evening. "I never knew Australia had so many different climates. I never understood how telecommunications work. You make everything sound so interesting." She called me my love after 2 weeks. I called her the same after 3. The progression felt natural, organic, like we were falling into something real despite the distance between us. "I'm falling in love with you, Graham," she told me one night, tears streaming down her face during our video call. "I know it sounds crazy because we haven't met in person, but I can't help it. You're everything I've ever wanted in a man." I was falling too. Hard. Harder than I'd fallen for anyone in years, maybe decades. This young, beautiful, intelligent woman saw something in me that I'd forgotten existed. She made me feel young again, valuable again, desired again. I sent her small gifts through online shopping flowers for her birthday. A necklace I thought would look beautiful on her, books about Australia that she'd mentioned wanting to read. She cried when she received them, holding them up to the camera like they were precious treasures. "No one has ever been so thoughtful to me," she said, clutching the necklace to her chest. "My heart is so full. I love you so much, Graham. I can't wait for us to be together in person." We made plans for me to visit her in February. I started looking at flights, researching hotels in Cebu, thinking about what it would be like to hold her in my arms. She was excited about showing me her country, introducing me to her family, taking me to all her favorite places. "I want to take you to Kawasan Falls," she said, showing me photos on her phone during one of our calls. "It's the most beautiful place in Cebu. We can swim together, have a picnic. Just enjoy being together without screens between us." She sent me voice messages every morning when I woke up. "Good morning, my love. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm thinking of you always. I love you so much." I saved every single one of those messages. I played them when I felt lonely, when I missed her voice, when I needed to remember that someone in this world cared about me. Our relationship had a routine that I cherished. Morning messages when I woke up, lunchtime check-ins about our days, Long evening video calls where we'd talk for hours about everything and nothing. She would tell me about the tourists she'd guided that day. I would tell her about my morning walks, the books I was reading, my thoughts about retirement. "I love how you see the world," she told me one evening. "You notice details that other people miss. You appreciate simple things. You make ordinary moments sound special." For 6 months, this was my life. For 6 months, I felt like I'd found my person, my second chance at love. My proof that it was possible to start over at 58. I was happier than I'd been in years. My friends noticed the change in my demeanor. I smiled more, worried less, talked about the future with genuine excitement. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything stopped. Her last message came on a Tuesday morning, just like every other morning for 6 months. "Going to visit my family in the province for a few days. The internet is very bad there, but I'll message you when I can. Love you, my Graham." I waited. Wednesday, no message. Thursday, nothing. By Friday, I was checking my phone every few minutes. Her WhatsApp showed, "Last seen 3 days ago." I sent her messages, asking if she was okay, if something had happened. The messages delivered, but never showed as read. "Celeste, baby, I'm worried about you. Please just send me a quick message to let me know you're safe. It's been 5 days. I'm really concerned. Did something happen to your phone? Love, I'm going crazy not hearing from you. Even just an emoji would make me feel better." Nothing. Absolute silence. The woman who had sent me good morning messages every single day for 6 months had vanished without a trace. By the second week, I was convinced something terrible had happened. Maybe she'd been in an accident in the remote province. Maybe her phone had been stolen. Maybe she was lying in a hospital somewhere, unable to contact me. The possibilities tormented me day and night. I couldn't eat properly. Food tasted like cardboard. I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone every hour, hoping for some sign that she was alive and safe. I kept replaying our last conversation, looking for clues I might have missed. She had seemed normal, happy, excited about her family visit. She'd talked about her cousin's wedding, how much she was looking forward to seeing relatives she hadn't seen in months. There was nothing that suggested danger or trouble. I found her tour company's website and sent them an email. "I'm looking for Celeste, one of your guides. I'm a friend from Australia, and I'm concerned about her safety. Could you please let me know if she's okay?" They replied 2 days later with a form response. "We cannot provide personal information about our employees. If you have concerns about someone's safety, please contact local authorities." Local authorities? How could I explain to Philippine police that my online girlfriend had stopped messaging me? They'd think I was insane. Maybe I was insane. Maybe this level of panic over someone I'd never met in person was proof that I'd lost perspective, that my loneliness had made me delusional. I searched her Facebook again, but she hadn't posted anything public in months. I looked through her Instagram, but it was private, and I could only see old photos. I even considered hiring a private investigator, but what would I tell them? Find my girlfriend who might not even be my girlfriend in a country I've never visited based on a WhatsApp number and some photos. The waiting was killing me. Every day that passed made me more certain she was gone, that I'd lost the best thing that had happened to me in years. I started having conversations with her photos, telling her about my day, asking her where she was. I know how pathetic that sounds, but I didn't care. She had become my world, and my world had gone dark. I called in sick to my consulting work. I couldn't concentrate on network diagrams and system configurations when the woman I loved might be dead or dying somewhere. My friends started checking on me, concerned about my sudden withdrawal from social activities. "You seem depressed, mate." My neighbor, Tom, said, when he found me sitting on my balcony at 3 in the morning, staring at my phone. "Everything all right?" How could I explain? How could I tell him that I was in love with a 22-year-old Filipino woman I'd never met, and that her disappearance was destroying me? He'd think I was having a midlife crisis, that I'd been scammed, that I was a pathetic old man chasing impossible dreams. Just going through a rough patch, I told him. Work stress. You need to get out more, he said. Come to the pub with us tomorrow night. Sarah's moved on, it's time you did too. But I hadn't moved on from Sarah to Celeste. I'd moved on from loneliness to love, from resignation to hope, from existing to living. And now I was back to existing, counting hours and checking my phone and wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. After 3 weeks of torture, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed a distraction, something to stop my mind from spiraling into worst-case scenarios about Celeste. I opened the dating app again, not because I wanted to meet someone new, but because I needed something to occupy my brain. I told myself I was just browsing, just killing time. I wasn't looking for a replacement for Celeste. No one could replace her. I was just trying to remind myself that there were other people in the world, other conversations to be had, other ways to spend my evening besides staring at her last seen timestamp. I swiped through a few profiles without really looking. Young women, older women, all looking for connection, all probably as lonely as I was. Their photos blurred together, smiling faces, vacation shots. Carefully curated glimpses into lives I didn't really want to understand. Then a photo stopped me cold. My heart actually skipped a beat. For a moment, I thought the app had glitched and was showing me Celeste's profile. But it wasn't. The name said Maria, and the age said 24. But the face was almost identical to Celeste's. I stared at my phone screen, convinced I was losing my mind. The photos were different poses, different clothes, different backgrounds, but the woman looked exactly like my missing girlfriend. Same dark hair, same bright eyes, same beautiful smile, same small scar on her chin that Celeste had gotten falling off her bike as a child. I took screenshots and compared them to photos I had of Celeste. The bone structure was identical. The nose, the eyes, the curve of her lips, even the way she tilted her head when she smiled. If this wasn't Celeste, it had to be a close relative. A sister, maybe. A twin. My hands were shaking as I swiped right. This could be the answer to my prayers. Maybe Celeste's family knew what had happened to her. Maybe this woman could give me information. Help me understand why Celeste had disappeared. We matched immediately. Within seconds, a message appeared. Hello there. You look very handsome. I love your smile. The typing style was familiar. The way she structured her sentences, the enthusiasm in her greeting, even the specific compliment about my smile. It felt like reading a message from Celeste, but that was impossible. Celeste was missing. Celeste was offline. This was Maria, a different person entirely. I started typing and deleting messages, not knowing what to say. Should I ask her directly if she knew Celeste? Should I play along and see what happened? Should I confront her about the resemblance? My engineer's mind was racing, trying to process this impossibility. Finally, I settled on something casual. Hi, Maria. Thank you for the kind words. You have a beautiful smile yourself. Tell me about yourself. Her response came quickly. I'm a nursing student here in Manila. I love to travel, read books, and spend time with my family. I'm looking for someone mature and serious, not like the young boys here who only want to play games. What about you? Nursing student. Manila. Different job, different city than what Celeste had told me. But something about her tone, her word choices, felt familiar. The way she mentioned maturity, the dismissal of young boys, these were themes Celeste had often discussed. I decided to test her with questions that might reveal a connection. What kind of books do you like to read? I love romance novels and mystery stories. I also enjoy reading about different countries and cultures. I dream of traveling the world someday. Those were almost the exact same interests Celeste had mentioned during our first conversations. The same dreams about traveling. But maybe that was common among young Filipino women. Maybe I was reading too much into coincidental similarities. Do you have any pets? Yes, I have a cat named Whiskers. He's very naughty, but I love him so much. Celeste had a cat too, but she'd called him Ming Ming. Different name, but still a cat. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe I was going crazy, seeing connections that didn't exist because I missed Celeste so much. What do you like to do for fun? I love watching movies, especially romantic comedies and Korean dramas. I also enjoy cooking traditional Filipino food and learning about other cultures. What about you, Graham? Korean dramas. Celeste had been obsessed with K-dramas, always telling me about the latest episodes she'd watched. But again, maybe that was popular among young women in the Philippines. Maybe I was desperately searching for Celeste in every Filipino woman I encountered. We chatted for an hour. Maria was charming, flirty, interested in my life in Australia. She asked about my work, my hobbies, what Melbourne was like. She wanted to know about the weather, the food, the culture. Standard getting-to-know-you conversation. But underneath it all, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was talking to a ghost. Her mannerisms, her curiosity patterns, even her timing in responses felt like conversations I'd had before. I have to go now, she finally wrote. Work tomorrow. But I really enjoyed talking with you, Graham. You seem very kind and intelligent. I hope we can talk again soon. Those words hit me like a punch to the stomach. You seem very kind and intelligent. Those were almost the exact words Celeste had used in her first message to me. Word for word, the same compliment, the same phrasing. I spent that night comparing screenshots, Maria's messages and Celeste's old messages. The similarity in tone was undeniable. They both used the same emoji combinations. They both made the same small grammar mistakes, writing, "You're very kind," instead of, "You're very kind." They both had the habit of sending multiple short messages, instead of one long one. They both ended serious statements with, "I think so," in the same way. They both used multiple periods when they were thinking. They both had the same unusual habit of saying, "That's very precious," when describing something sweet or touching. But maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe grief was making me see patterns that didn't exist. Maybe my desperation to find Celeste was causing me to imagine connections with a random stranger who just happened to look like her. The next day, Maria messaged me first. "Good morning, handsome. How did you sleep?" Even her good morning message felt familiar. The timing, the casual intimacy, the specific question about sleep. Celeste used to call me handsome every morning. She used to ask about my sleep, worried that our late-night calls were affecting my rest. "I slept okay," I replied. "How about you? Ready for another day of nursing school?" "Actually, it's my day off today. I'm just relaxing at home with my family. What are your plans?" We fell into an easy conversation. Maria was warm, engaging, interested in my life. She asked about my work as a telecom engineer. Seemed genuinely curious about how networks functioned. She told me about her family, her studies, her dreams for the future. "I've always been fascinated by technology," she said. "The way you can connect people across the world instantly. It's like magic." Celeste had said almost identical words during one of our early conversations. She'd been amazed by my explanation of how international calls worked, how data traveled across oceans in seconds. "Do you enjoy your studies?" I asked. "Most of the time. But it's challenging and expensive. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever finish my degree. But I know education is important for my future." The mention of financial struggles felt familiar too. Celeste had occasionally mentioned money concerns, though she'd never asked me for help directly. She'd talked about irregular income from tourism, expensive family obligations, dreams deferred because of practical limitations. As the day went on, the similarities to Celeste became more pronounced. Maria mentioned loving the same movies Celeste had recommended to me. She made the same joke about Australian accents that Celeste had made months ago. She even referenced the same specific Korean drama that Celeste had been watching when we'd first started talking. "Have you seen Crash Landing on You?" she asked. That was the exact drama Celeste had been obsessed with. She'd spent hours telling me about the plot, the characters, why she loved stories about people from different worlds finding each other against impossible odds. "I haven't watched it," I replied. "But someone else recommended it to me recently." "Oh, you should definitely watch it. It's about a South Korean woman who accidentally lands in North Korea and falls in love with a soldier there. It's so romantic, even though they come from completely different worlds. Those were almost the exact words Celeste had used to describe the show. The same enthusiasm, the same plot summary, the same emphasis on love transcending different worlds. By evening, I couldn't stand it anymore. The coincidences were too numerous, too specific. I had to know if there was a connection. "Maria, I have to ask you something, and I hope you don't think I'm crazy." "Of course. You can ask me anything." My hands were shaking as I typed. "Do you happen to know someone named Celeste? She's also from the Philippines, about 22 years old. She works as a tour guide in Cebu." The response took longer than usual. When it came, I could almost feel the shock through the screen. "Oh my God, Celeste is my sister. How do you know her? This is so crazy." My heart stopped. "Sister, of course." That explained everything: the resemblance, the similar mannerisms, even some of the shared interests. Sisters could be alike in many ways, especially if they were close. We were dating. Online. We'd been talking for months, but she disappeared about 3 weeks ago. I've been so worried about her. Do you know what happened? Is she okay? Graham, you're Graham. Celeste told me about you. She said she was dating this wonderful Australian man named Graham. I was so excited to meet you, but I had no idea this was you. Relief flooded through me like a dam breaking. Celeste had talked about me to her sister. She was alive. She was okay. I wasn't going crazy. There was a logical explanation for everything. "Thank God," I typed. "I've been so worried. What happened to her? Why did she stop messaging me?" "She had to go back to our province because of family problems. Our father got very sick and she had to help take care of him. The internet is very bad there, almost no signal. She's been so sad because she can't contact you." "Family emergency." Of course. That made perfect sense. Why hadn't I thought of that? People got sick. Families needed help. Not everywhere had good internet. Rural areas in the Philippines probably had terrible connectivity. I felt guilty for doubting her, for imagining worst-case scenarios. "Is your father okay now? When will she be able to come back online?" "He's getting better, but slowly. It's a serious illness, and she might be there for a few more weeks. She asked me to tell you if I ever met you that she misses you so much, and she's sorry she can't contact you. She cries every day because she can't talk to her Graham." Those words made my chest tight with emotion. She missed me. She was crying because she couldn't contact me. I'd been going through the same torture, thinking she'd forgotten about me or found someone else. "Can you give me her number in the province, or any way to reach her? She doesn't have a phone there. She's using our cousin's phone sometimes, but very rarely. The signal is so weak that even text messages don't always go through. Don't worry. I will tell her I met you when I talk to her next. She will be so happy to know you were looking for her." We talked for another hour. Maria told me more about their family situation, about how Celeste had always been the responsible one, always helping when there were problems. She said Celeste talked about me constantly, how much she loved me, how she couldn't wait for me to visit the Philippines. "She showed me your photos," Maria said. "She said you were the most handsome and kind man she'd ever met. She said she wanted to marry you someday." Marriage. Celeste had mentioned that to her sister. My heart swelled with happiness and hope. Despite everything, despite the separation and the silence, she was still thinking about our future together. "She really said that?" "Oh yes. Many times. She's so in love with you, Graham. She talks about you like you're her soulmate. She's been planning all the places she wants to show you when you visit. She even started learning how to cook some Australian dishes to surprise you. That detail felt so genuine, so specific. It was exactly the kind of thoughtful gesture Celeste would plan, always thinking about others, always trying to make people happy. Over the next few days, Maria and I developed our own friendship. She was helping me stay connected to Celeste during this difficult time, and I was grateful for any link to the woman I loved. Maria would tell me stories about their childhood, about Celeste's dreams and fears, about their family dynamics. "We're very close," she explained. "Only 2 years apart in age, so we grew up like twins. We share everything, clothes, books, even thoughts sometimes. Our mother used to joke that we had one brain split between 2 bodies." But as the days passed and I continued talking to Maria, small things started bothering me. Details that didn't quite add up. Maria claimed Celeste loved spicy food, but Celeste had told me she couldn't handle spice. Maria said their father was a fisherman, but Celeste had mentioned he worked in construction. Maria described their childhood home differently than Celeste had. "Maybe we remember things differently," Maria said when I mentioned some of the inconsistencies. "Celeste and I sometimes have different perspectives on the same events. Plus, she might have told you simplified versions of some stories." That explanation made sense. Siblings could have different memories, different relationships with their parents, but the inconsistencies gnawed at me. What bothered me more was how much Maria reminded me of Celeste, not just physically, but in every other way. Her sense of humor was identical. Her opinions about movies, music, even politics were exactly the same. Her dreams about traveling matched Celeste's word for word. Even her fears were identical. She was afraid of spiders, just like Celeste. She loved the rain, just like Celeste. She wanted to learn French someday, just like Celeste. She had the same unusual hobby of collecting seashells, the same favorite color, emerald green. The same childhood memory of wanting to be a marine biologist. "You and Celeste are remarkably similar," I told her one day. "People always say that. We're very close. She's only 2 years older than me, so we grew up like twins. We share everything. Clothes, books, even thoughts sometimes. When we were children, people used to mistake us for each other all the time." That explanation made sense. Close sisters could be very similar, especially if they were close in age, but something still felt off. I started taking screenshots of our conversations, comparing them to old chats with Celeste. The similarities went beyond shared interests or family jokes. Both Maria and Celeste made the same unusual error writing, "You're very kind," instead of, "You're very kind." Both had the habit of using multiple periods when they were thinking. Both ended serious statements with, "I think so," in the same way. Both used the exact same emoji combinations in the exact same contexts. Most disturbing was their identical use of unusual phrases. Both would say, "That's very precious," when describing something sweet. Both would write, "I'm so curious about this," when expressing interest. Both had the same habit of saying, "Please don't think I'm silly, but..." Before sharing personal thoughts, my engineering background had taught me to analyze patterns, to look for anomalies in data transmission, and this data wasn't adding up. The probability of 2 different people having identical typing patterns, identical grammar mistakes, identical unusual phrases, was astronomically low. In telecommunications, when 2 signals were too similar, it usually meant they were coming from the same source. But this couldn't be the same source. I was talking to Maria, Celeste's sister. She'd told me stories about their family that only a sister would know. She'd shared memories of growing up together that felt genuine and detailed. But what was the alternative? That Maria was lying about being Celeste's sister? That she was somehow impersonating Celeste? That made even less sense. Why would a random stranger pretend to be related to my missing girlfriend? What could she possibly gain from such an elaborate deception? I decided to test my theory. I asked Maria if she could arrange a video call with Celeste, or at least a phone call. I would love to hear her voice, even for just a minute. If she can't talk long because of the situation with your father, I understand. But I miss her so much. I will try, Maria promised. Next time I talk to her, I will ask if she can call you. Even for just a few minutes. But you have to understand, she's very emotional right now. She might not want you to hear her crying. Days passed with no call. Maria kept making excuses. Celeste was too busy helping with their father. The phone signal was too weak for international calls. She was too emotional and didn't want me to hear her upset. She feels so bad about this situation, Maria explained. She's embarrassed that she can't contact you properly. She doesn't want you to see her like this, all stressed and tired from taking care of father. I understood, but I was getting desperate to hear Celeste's voice. I needed that confirmation that she was okay, that our relationship was still real, that Maria was telling me the truth about everything. Maybe just a quick text message from her phone, I suggested. Even just to say hello, so I know she's thinking of me. The problem is that she's using different phones, Maria explained. Sometimes our cousin's phone, sometimes our aunt's phone. She doesn't want to give you a number that might not work next week. Every excuse sounded logical, but together they created a pattern that made me suspicious. Why was it so difficult for Celeste to make any direct contact, even briefly? Why did every attempt at communication have to go through Maria? Finally, Maria agreed to set up a three-way call. I'll call her first, then add you to the call. But please don't be upset if she can't talk long. She's very emotional these days, and the phone connection might not be good. When my phone rang and I heard Maria's voice, my heart was pounding. Okay, I'm calling her now, she said. I heard dialing, then a connection. Hello? The voice was different. Slightly deeper, with a different accent. But it was still familiar. Celeste? I said. Graham, oh my God, is that really you? It was her. It was definitely her voice, but something was off. She sounded different, more formal, more distant. Her accent was stronger than I remembered, and her tone was strangely stilted. Baby, I've missed you so much. Are you okay? I've been so worried. I'm okay, just very tired. This situation with my father is very difficult. We only talked for 5 minutes. She said she couldn't talk longer because she needed to help with her father's medication. But something about the conversation felt wrong. She didn't use any of her usual pet names for me. She didn't reference any of our shared jokes or memories. She sounded like she was reading from a script. I said before hanging up. I love you too, she replied. But there was a hesitation that had never been there before. When the call ended, I sat in my living room staring at my phone. I'd gotten what I wanted, proof that Celeste was alive and okay. But instead of relief, I felt more confused than ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the phone conversation, analyzing every word, every inflection. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on what. The voice was Celeste's, but the personality wasn't. It was like talking to someone wearing a Celeste mask. I opened my laptop and started going through my chat history with Maria again. This time, I approached it like a data analysis problem. I created spreadsheets comparing word usage, phrase frequency, typing patterns. I analyzed response times, emoji usage, conversation flow. The results were disturbing. Maria and Celeste weren't just similar. They were statistically identical. Their typing patterns matched with 97% accuracy. Their vocabulary overlap was almost perfect. Their response time patterns were nearly identical. Their emotional expression patterns were indistinguishable. In 32 years of telecom engineering, I'd learned to spot anomalies in data transmission. When two signals were too similar, it usually meant they were coming from the same source. The mathematical probability of two different people having such identical communication patterns was essentially zero, but I'd just talked to both of them on the phone. Unless unless the voice I'd heard wasn't really Celeste. I started researching voice modification technology. It was easier than I'd expected to find apps that could alter vocal patterns, change accents, even modify gender characteristics. With some practice, one person could create multiple distinct voices, but that was impossible. Why would Maria pretend to be her own sister? What would be the point? We weren't even talking about money or favors. She was just helping me stay connected to Celeste during a difficult time. Or was she? I scrolled back through our conversations, looking for any mention of financial help or support. There, buried in a conversation from the previous week, was a subtle hint that I'd missed the first time. Things are very expensive right now with father's medical bills, Maria had mentioned casually. Celeste is working so hard, but it's not enough. The doctors say he needs surgery, but we can't afford it. I wish I could help her more, but I'm just a student. It wasn't a direct request for money, but it was laying groundwork, planting seeds, making me aware that there were financial pressures, that the family was struggling, that help might be needed. I felt sick, not because of the potential scam I'd heard about those, read warnings about romance scams targeting older Western men. I felt sick because I was starting to believe that my relationship with Celeste, the woman I'd fallen in love with, might not have been real at all. But I needed more proof. I needed to know for certain before I let paranoia destroy something that might still be genuine. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe the similarities between Maria and Celeste were just evidence of how close they were as sisters. Maybe the voice call had felt strange because Celeste was stressed and emotional. I decided to conduct more tests, to gather more evidence before drawing final conclusions. Maria, I said the next day, I was thinking about visiting the Philippines soon to help with your father's situation. Maybe I could assist with the medical bills, and I'd love to see Celeste again. The response came quickly, and it was panicked. Oh no, Graham! You can't come here right now. Father is in a very remote area of the province. Very difficult to reach. The roads are terrible, and there's no place for tourists to stay. Also, Celeste would be so embarrassed for you to see her family in this situation. She's very proud, and she wouldn't want you to see us when we're struggling. Every excuse sounded logical individually, but together they formed a wall designed to prevent any real-world contact. Why would someone who genuinely cared about their family refuse help from someone willing and able to provide it? I don't mind rough conditions, I insisted. I've traveled to remote areas before, and I want to help. That's what people do for those they love. Please don't come, Maria repeated. It would make everything worse. Celeste specifically asked me to tell you not to come. She said she would be too ashamed to face you in this situation. That didn't sound like the Celeste I knew. The woman I'd fallen in love with was proud, but not foolishly so. She was practical about accepting help when it was genuinely offered. She had often talked about wanting to introduce me to her family, excited about the prospect of showing me her world. I tried a different approach. Can you send me recent photos of yourself and Celeste together? I miss seeing her face, and I'd love to see how much you two look alike. We don't take many photos together, she replied. Celeste is very camera shy these days because of all the stress. She doesn't like how she looks when she's been crying so much. Maybe just one photo? Even if she looks tired, I just want to see that she's okay. I'll try to get one next time I see her, but she's staying at the hospital most of the time now. Father's condition is getting worse. Days passed with no photos. When I pressed the issue, Maria said Celeste was too emotional to take pictures, that she didn't want me to see her looking tired and stressed. Always an excuse. Always a reason why direct proof was impossible. I tried yet another approach. I asked Maria to take a selfie while holding a sign with my name and the date on it. I know it sounds silly, but I want to show my friends back home that I'm talking to Celeste's beautiful sister. That's very sweet, she replied. But I'm at work right now. Maybe later when I get home. Later never came. Every request for real-time proof was met with excuses. Work, family obligations, phone camera problems, shyness, being in public, bad lighting. Always something preventing her from providing simple verification of her identity. My suspicions were growing stronger, but I still couldn't believe that someone would create such an elaborate deception just to talk to me. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. I was just a lonely divorced engineer from Melbourne. What could anyone possibly gain from pretending to be my girlfriend's sister? Then, slowly, the answer became clear. It started with more frequent mentions of financial pressure. Maria would casually bring up how expensive things were in the Philippines, how hard Celeste was working to support their family during this crisis. She'd talk about their father's medical bills, their mother's need for support, the general economic struggles of their extended family. "I feel so bad for Celeste," she told me one day. "She's sacrificing everything for our family. She even turned down a good job opportunity in Cebu because she had to stay in the province to help father. She's working 3 jobs now just to pay for his medication." The setup was subtle, masterful even. She wasn't asking me for anything directly. She was just sharing her concerns about her sister, the woman I loved. She was making me aware of the problems without requesting solutions. "3 jobs?" I asked. "That sounds exhausting. What kind of work is she doing?" "She's cleaning offices at night, helping at a local restaurant during the day, and giving English lessons to children when she can. She barely sleeps. I'm so worried about her health." Each detail was designed to make me feel guilty for living comfortably in Australia while the woman I loved suffered in poverty. Each story was crafted to make me want to help, to make me feel like helping was my responsibility as someone who claimed to care about her. A few days later, the first direct request came. "Graham, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is there any way you might be able to help Celeste with father's medical expenses? I hate to ask, but she's too proud to ask you herself. The doctors say father needs surgery soon, but we can't afford it. It costs $3,000 USD, which is like a year's salary for most people here." There it was. The real reason for this elaborate sister charade. Not to help me stay connected to Celeste during a family emergency, but to extract money from me using emotional manipulation. My heart broke. Not because of the money request. I'd been prepared for that possibility ever since I'd started dating someone overseas. My heart broke because it meant that everything I'd believed about my relationship with Celeste was likely a lie. If Maria was running a money scam using Celeste's identity, then who was Celeste really? Was she even a real person? Or was Maria the only person I'd ever been talking to? Had 6 months of daily conversations, intimate moments, shared dreams, planning a future together. Had it all been an elaborate performance designed to separate me from my money? "I want to help," I told Maria, "but I need to verify the medical situation first. Can you send me the hospital's contact information? I'd like to pay the bills directly instead of sending cash. That way there's no confusion about the money reaching the right place." The response took hours instead of minutes. When it came, it was evasive and filled with new obstacles. The hospital is very small and local. They don't accept international payments or credit cards. Everything has to be paid in cash, in pesos. Also, father is very proud and would be embarrassed if a stranger paid his bills directly. He doesn't even know that Celeste has been talking to a foreign man. Every alarm bell in my head was ringing. A legitimate medical emergency would welcome direct payment from any source. A real hospital treating serious patients would have systems for accepting money, even from international sources. The pride and embarrassment excuses were exactly the kind of emotional manipulation I'd read about in scam warnings. "I understand the pride issue," I replied, "but I'm planning to fly to the Philippines next week anyway. I can meet with the doctors myself and handle the payment in person. That way your father never has to know the money came from me." The panic in her response was immediate and obvious. "No, you can't come here right now. I told you, father is in a very remote area, almost impossible to reach. The roads are dangerous, especially for foreigners. Also, Celeste would be so upset if you saw her family in this desperate situation. It would ruin everything between you two. Please don't come. It would make everything so much worse." A real sister worried about her family would welcome help from someone who cared about her sister and had the means to provide assistance. She wouldn't try to prevent that assistance unless that assistance would expose something she was trying to hide. "Maybe I could send the money to you," I suggested, "and you could handle the hospital payment." "Yes, that would be perfect." The enthusiasm in her response was telling. "I can convert the dollars to pesos and pay the hospital directly. Father would never have to know where the money came from." I made my decision. It was time to confront this situation directly, to test my theory with irrefutable evidence. "Maria," I typed, my hands shaking as I composed the message, "I need to tell you something that's been bothering me. I've been analyzing our conversations, and I've noticed some things that concern me deeply." "What kind of things?" Her response came quickly, but I could sense defensiveness in her tone. "Your typing patterns, your word choices, even your grammar mistakes are identical to Celeste's. The probability of two different people having such similar communication styles is essentially zero. I have mathematical evidence of this." The response took over an hour. When it came, it was defensive but still maintaining the charade. "We are very close sisters. We learned English together from the same teacher. We read the same books. We even finish each other's sentences when we talk. Of course, we sound similar when we type. People always comment on how alike we are. I also used reverse image search on the photos you sent. Some of your pictures are actually old photos from Celeste's social media accounts with different filters applied. The metadata doesn't match your claimed location or timeline." Another long delay. Then, "We share photos all the time. Sometimes I post pictures she took of me, and she posts pictures I took of her. We borrow each other's clothes and poses for photos. That's normal for sisters who are close." I'd prepared for these denials. I had one more test, one that would be impossible to explain away if my suspicions were correct. "I want to help Celeste and your family," I said. "Tomorrow morning I'm going to contact the tour company where Celeste works. I'll explain the family emergency situation and ask them to pass along a message and some money to help with the medical bills. That way the money will reach her through official channels, and you won't have to handle it." The response was immediate and panicked, arriving within minutes. "No, please don't contact her work. She hasn't told them about her family situation because she's afraid they'll fire her for taking time off. If they find out she's been absent because of personal problems, they might replace her with another guide. Tourism companies here don't care about family emergencies. Please don't do anything that might cost her job." That was it. The final proof I needed. A real tour company dealing with a legitimate family emergency would be understanding, possibly even supportive. They might offer assistance, or at least compassionate leave. The only reason to prevent contact with an employer would be if that employer had no record of the employee being absent for a family emergency. Because there was no family emergency, there probably wasn't even a job, and there might not even be a real Celeste. I took a screenshot of her panicked response, added it to my growing collection of evidence, and made my final decision. "Maria," I typed. "I know you're Celeste. I know there's no sister, no family emergency, no medical bills. I know you've been lying to me about everything. I have technical evidence that proves you and Celeste are the same person. I have photo analysis showing you're using manipulated images. I have communication pattern analysis that's more accurate than a fingerprint." This time, the delay was even longer. Hours passed with no response. I almost started to believe I'd been wrong, that I'd just destroyed a genuine relationship based on paranoid suspicions and faulty analysis. Then, late at night, my phone rang. Video call from Maria's number. I answered, and there was Celeste's face on my screen. But she looked different. Tired, defeated, crying, no longer maintaining the subtle differences in appearance that had distinguished Maria from Celeste. It was clearly the same person, and she was no longer trying to hide it. "Graham," she said in her real voice, not the fake accent she'd used as Maria. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." "So you are Celeste. There is no Maria. Yes. The word came out as a whisper. I'm Celeste. I've been both of us. There is no sister. Finally. The truth. But instead of satisfaction or vindication, I felt empty. Hollow. The revelation brought no relief, only a deep sadness for both of us. Why? I asked. Why would you do this to me? To us? The tears came harder. I was scared. You were getting serious about visiting, about meeting my family, about our future together. But I'm not who you think I am. I'm not really a tour guide. I don't live in Cebu. I don't have the life I told you about. The confession continued, each word breaking my heart more than the last. I live in Manila with my aunt and uncle in a tiny apartment. I work at a call center during the day and clean offices at night. I have no money, no family to help me. I support my cousin's education, my aunt who has diabetes, my uncle who drinks too much and can't keep a job. She paused, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I started talking to foreign men online because I needed money. Not just for luxury things, but for survival. For medicine for my aunt, for school fees for my cousins, for rent and food. I have different profiles on different apps, different identities. Some days I'm a student, some days I'm a tour guide. Some days I'm a nurse. I become whoever they want me to be. The revelation was crushing, but not surprising. I'd suspected something like this, but hearing it confirmed still felt like a physical blow. So everything between us was fake? Every conversation, every emotion, every plan we made? No, she said quickly, leaning closer to the camera. With you, it was different. You were so kind, so genuine. You didn't just want sex or nude photos like the others. You wanted to know about my dreams, my thoughts, my real feelings. You treated me like a person, not just a fantasy. But you still lied to me about everything. Your job, your location, your entire life. Yes, I lied about the details, but my feelings for you were real. I started to care about you genuinely. You made me feel valuable, intelligent, worthy of love. But I also needed money to survive. And I didn't know how to ask you without destroying what we had. So you created Maria. Yes, I thought if I became my own sister, I could ask for help without it seeming like I was using you. I could make it seem like someone else was asking, someone who cared about both of us but wasn't directly involved in our relationship. The logic was twisted but understandable. She'd created an elaborate solution to preserve our emotional connection while still accessing my financial support. How many other men are you talking to right now? 4, she admitted without hesitation. But I don't care about them like I care about you. They're just work. You became real to me, Graham. My feelings for you are genuine. But everything else was fake. Your job, your location, your family situation, even your sister. Yes, everything except how I feel about you. We sat in silence for a long moment, looking at each other through our phone screens. She looked young and vulnerable and exhausted. I felt old and foolish and betrayed, but also strangely protective of this young woman who had deceived me so thoroughly. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. I understand if you hate me. I understand if you never want to talk to me again. I just wanted you to know that my feelings for you were real, even if everything else was a lie. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to feel righteous anger, to call her names, to threaten her with consequences. But looking at her tear-stained face, all I felt was sadness. Sadness for both of us. I don't hate you, I said quietly, but I don't know how to trust you either. I know, I destroyed that. I destroyed everything good between us. Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? If you'd said you needed help, I would have helped you. You didn't need to create this elaborate deception. I was scared you'd leave. All the other men leave when they find out about my real life. They want the fantasy, not the reality. They want a young, beautiful tour guide from a tropical paradise, not a poor call center worker from a Manila slum. So, you gave me a fantasy instead of a chance to choose the reality. Yes. I'm sorry, Graham. I'm so sorry. We talked for another hour. She told me more about her real life, the overcrowded apartment she shared with relatives, the night shifts cleaning office buildings, the constant stress of never having enough money. She told me about the other men she was talking to, how she had to remember different stories for each of them, how exhausting it was to maintain multiple fake identities. Sometimes I forget which story I told to which person, she said. I have notebooks where I write down all the lies, so I don't get confused. It's like having multiple jobs, except the job is pretending to be someone else. Don't the other men ever get suspicious? Some do. Usually I just disappear when they start asking too many questions. Block them and move on to new profiles, new identities. But with you, I couldn't disappear. I cared too much. That's why I created Maria, so I could stay connected to you, even if you got suspicious about Celeste. That should have made me feel special. But it didn't. It just made me feel like I'd been the victim of a more sophisticated scam than the others. What about the voice call where I talk to both of you? I have an app that changes voices in real time. I practiced the Maria voice for weeks before using it with you. I also have a friend who sometimes helps me by pretending to be sisters or roommates when clients want to talk to multiple people. Every revelation made the deception more elaborate, more calculated. This wasn't a simple lie that had gotten out of hand. This was a sophisticated operation designed to extract money from lonely foreign men while maintaining emotional connections that felt genuine. How much money do you make from all the men you talk to? It depends on the month. Some send small amounts regularly, like $50 or $100. Others send bigger amounts when I tell them about emergencies. Last month I made about $600 total from all of them. $600! That was probably more than many Filipinos made in legitimate jobs, but it came at the cost of living multiple lies and manipulating people's emotions. I understood the financial motivation, but it didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. Are you going to keep doing this? I don't know. I need the money to survive, but I hate lying all the time. I hate pretending to love people I don't even know. With you, it was different because the feelings became real, but with the others... She shrugged. It's just acting. It's just work. What about your real dreams? What do you actually want to do with your life? For the first time in our conversation, she smiled slightly. I want to be a teacher. I'm taking online classes when I can afford them, slowly working toward a degree. But it takes so long, and I need money now to survive and support my family. A teacher, of course. That explained her intelligence, her curiosity about my work, her genuine interest in learning about Australia. The career aspiration was probably one of the few true things she'd ever told me. Why don't you get a better job? Something that pays more than call center work and cleaning. You need connections for good jobs here. You need family with money, or you need to pay bribes to get hired. I have neither. The call center pays okay during busy seasons, but not enough to support my aunt's medical care and my cousin's school fees and still have money left for my own education. I was starting to understand the impossible situation she was in. She was trying to support an extended family on wages that barely covered basic survival. The online scamming wasn't just greed, it was economic desperation born from a system that offered few opportunities for advancement. But understanding her motivations didn't heal the damage to my heart. I need time to think about all this, I told her. I don't know what I feel right now. I'm hurt, but I'm also sad for your situation. I'm angry about the deception, but I also understand why you felt you had no choice. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know the truth finally. Will you stop talking to the other men? She hesitated for a long moment. I don't know if I can afford to. This money is how my family survives. Without it, my aunt can't get her medicine, my cousins can't stay in school. That answer hurt more than I expected. Even after confessing everything, even after admitting her feelings for me were real. She wasn't willing to give up the scamming. I was just one source of income among several, one emotional investment among multiple portfolios. "I need to go," I said. "I need to process all of this. Will you block me like I do to the others? When they find out." I looked at her face on my screen, young, scared, exhausted, trapped in a situation that seemed to offer no good choices. Despite everything, I still cared about her. The feelings I'd developed over 6 months couldn't just disappear because I'd learned the truth about how they'd been cultivated and manipulated. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe, probably. I can't trust you anymore, Celeste. And without trust, what's the point of continuing? I know, I destroyed everything good between us. I'm sorry, Graham. I'm so sorry." I ended the call and sat in my dark living room, staring at my phone. 6 months of my life, 6 months of believing I'd found love again. 6 months of planning a future with someone who didn't really exist. But she did exist. Celeste was real. Just not the version of herself she'd presented to me. The real Celeste was more desperate, more complicated, more morally ambiguous than the fantasy version. But she was also more human, more understandable, more deserving of compassion than I wanted to admit. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying our conversations, trying to figure out which parts had been real and which had been performance. Did she really love romantic comedies? Or was that something she thought I wanted to hear? Did she really dream of traveling the world, or was that just part of the tour guide character she'd created? Had any of her personality been genuine, or was it all carefully crafted to appeal to lonely older men? The next morning, I made a decision that surprised even me. I opened my laptop and transferred $3,000 to a bank account she'd mentioned during our conversation, not the account she'd wanted me to send money to for the fake medical emergency, but the account she used for her legitimate expenses. Then I sent her one final message before blocking her on every platform we'd used to communicate. "This money isn't for fake medical bills or imaginary emergencies. It's to help you get out of the scamming business and focus on your teaching degree. Use it to support your family while you build something honest. Don't contact me again, but I hope you find a better way to survive than manipulating people who care about you." I never heard from her again. That was 8 months ago. I've thought about Celeste almost every day since then. Not the fantasy version I fell in love with, but the real version, the young woman so desperate to survive that she'd created elaborate fictional identities to extract money from lonely men. I've wondered if she used my money for her education, or if she just spent it on family expenses and continued scamming other men. I've wondered if she ever thinks about me, if she feels guilty about what she did, if she learned anything from our relationship. I've also thought a lot about myself, about why I was so eager to believe in a perfect relationship with a beautiful young woman half my age, about how my loneliness made me vulnerable to manipulation, about how my desire for connection blinded me to obvious red flags that I should have noticed from the beginning. I haven't dated anyone since Celeste. I've thought about it, downloaded apps, even gone on a few coffee dates, but I can't shake the feeling that every woman who shows interest in me might have ulterior motives. The paranoia she created in my mind has infected every potential relationship, making me question every compliment, every show of affection, every expression of interest. But I've also learned things about myself that I value. I learned that I'm capable of caring deeply for someone, even someone who deceives me. I learned that my feelings can be real, even when the relationship is built on lies. I learned that understanding someone's motivations doesn't excuse their actions, but it can help you find compassion even in the midst of betrayal. Most importantly, I learned that I was looking for love in the wrong places for the wrong reasons. I was trying to recapture my youth through someone else's youth. I was trying to solve my loneliness through someone else's attention. I was trying to find meaning in my life through someone else's needs and problems. Now I'm focused on building a real life for myself, one that doesn't depend on external validation or romantic fantasies. I've started volunteering at a local literacy program, teaching English to immigrants and refugees. It reminds me that there are people struggling with real problems who need genuine help, not romantic fantasies or financial exploitation. I've also started attending support groups for men who've been victims of romance scams. I learned that my experience isn't unique. Thousands of Western men fall victim to similar schemes every year. Some lose much more money than I did. Some never recover emotionally from the betrayal. Sharing my story has helped me process the experience and has hopefully helped others avoid similar situations. The group taught me that romance scams work because they exploit genuine human needs, the need for connection, for love, for feeling valued and desired. The scammers aren't necessarily evil people. They're often desperate individuals trying to survive in economic systems that offer few legitimate opportunities for advancement. That doesn't excuse the emotional manipulation, but it does provide context that helps me understand what happened to me. Celeste wasn't a monster. She was a young woman, trapped in an impossible situation, who made morally questionable choices to survive. I've started building real friendships with people in my community. Not romantic relationships, just genuine human connections based on shared interests and mutual respect. I've joined a hiking group for people over 50, started taking cooking classes, even tried my hand at pottery. These activities fill my time with meaningful engagement rather than digital fantasies. Sometimes I still miss Celeste. Not the fake version who was a tour guide from Cebu, but the real version who was trying to become a teacher while supporting her extended family in Manila. I hope she's doing well. I hope she found a way to finish her education without continuing to manipulate lonely men. I hope my money helped her build something better for herself and her family. But mostly, I hope I never have to go through anything like that again. The combination of love and betrayal nearly broke me. The realization that my deepest feelings had been systematically manipulated made me question everything I thought I knew about human connection and my own judgment. Recovery from that kind of emotional trauma takes time. Some days I feel strong and wise, like I've learned valuable lessons that will protect me in the future. Other days I feel foolish and broken, like I'll never trust anyone again, like I'm destined to spend the rest of my life alone because I can't distinguish between genuine affection and sophisticated manipulation. The truth is probably somewhere in between. I'm not as wise as I think on my good days, and I'm not as broken as I feel on my bad days. I'm just a man who fell in love with someone who wasn't real, and who's trying to figure out how to love again in a world where deception is so easy and loneliness makes you so vulnerable to people who would exploit that vulnerability for their own survival. If I've learned anything from this experience, it's that real love requires real honesty. Fantasy relationships might feel safer and more exciting in the short term, but they're ultimately unsustainable. The truth always comes out eventually. And when it does, the damage is usually worse than whatever pain the lies were meant to avoid. I gave Celeste money because I understood her desperation and wanted to help her build something better. But I blocked her because I couldn't trust her ever again, and without trust, there's no foundation for any kind of meaningful relationship. Both decisions felt right at the time, and they still feel right now. She taught me that people are capable of caring for you genuinely while simultaneously deceiving you completely. She taught me that economic desperation can drive people to moral compromises they never thought they'd make. She taught me that the line between victim and perpetrator is often blurrier than we want to admit, especially when survival is at stake. But most importantly, she taught me that I deserve honest love, even if it's less exciting than fantasy love. I deserve someone who wants to be with the real me, not someone who sees me as a solution to their financial problems or as a character in a romantic narrative they're constructing for profit. I may never find that kind of love. At 58, divorced, and now carrying the emotional scars of sophisticated betrayal, I'm not exactly a catch in the traditional dating market, but I'd rather be alone and authentic than coupled and deceived. I'd rather build genuine friendships and meaningful community connections than chase romantic fantasies that leave me vulnerable to exploitation. In my quieter moments, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Celeste had told me the truth from the beginning. If she'd said, "I'm a young woman in the Philippines struggling to support my family, and I need help, but I also think you're a kind man, and I'd like to get to know you honestly." Would I have been interested in that relationship? Would I have been willing to help her financially without the romantic component? I think I might have been. I think I would have respected her honesty and found ways to help her that didn't require elaborate deception. We might have built a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than a fake romance based on manipulation and fantasy. But I'll never know, because she chose fantasy over reality, manipulation over honesty, short-term financial gain over long-term emotional connection. That choice destroyed any possibility of a real relationship between us. But it also taught me what I'm looking for in my next relationship, if there ever is one. I want someone who chooses difficult truths over comfortable lies, someone who sees me as a person rather than a solution, someone who wants to build something real rather than maintain something fake. I want someone who values honesty enough to risk rejection, someone who believes that authentic connection is worth more than financial security, someone who understands that love without trust is just elaborate performance art. Until I find that person, or until I decide I'm content being alone, I'll keep volunteering, keep building friendships, keep working on myself. The loneliness that made me vulnerable to Celeste's deception is still there, but I'm learning to fill it with meaningful activities rather than romantic fantasies. I'm learning to value my own company, to enjoy solitude without feeling desperate for connection. That's my story. A cautionary tale about online romance, certainly, but also a story about learning to value honesty over excitement, reality over fantasy, and self-respect over desperate connection. I hope it helps someone else avoid the pain I went through, but more than that, I hope it reminds people that real love, when you find it, should feel safe enough to be completely honest within.